Hey guys, Yoban here from Jigsaw Stack. I'm dialing in from London and I'm experiencing daylight saving. It's 4:30 p.m. and it's almost pitch dark. It feels like I'm going to go to bed soon, but I am recording a video for you guys. Today I want to talk about how we can bring AI natively into your base. In the previous video, we showcased how we built translation right in your Postgres DB, and you can automatically translate content as it's being added into your database natively stored. So you don't have to have a separate API requests made to your server that basically updates and store the thing and maintains that. This happens in your database, so it watches for updates and inserts. We want to do the same thing for summarizations and have native summarizations built right into the database, especially for larger content. If you have, let's say, an article platform where you have tons of articles and you want to generate summarizations, can we do it right in the database without writing code? We have the Summarization API that can take a large amount of text and gives you a summarization in two types. You got a text-based summarization, which gives you a chunk of text based on the text that you passed in, a shorter version of it. And we got a point-based summarization, which is basically a point breakdown of whatever text that you pass in, summarized down. So now we want to take this idea and put it right into our database. So let's head over there. I'm using Supabase as our Postgres instance. We can use any Postgres database that supports triggers, that has Postgres functions. I already have this example up over here, articles. So I created a simple table. We have the content that we inject, and we generate two types of summaries. One is the TLDR summary, a shorter version of the large content, and the point-based summary, which is stored as JSON. So you can be reading it as a JSON from your front end and basically displaying it. So assuming you have this table, you got to have a Supabase account to create your Postgres instance, and you got to get your Jigsaw Stack API key. The first thing we want to do is write a function. So let's head over to the database section, go to functions. I should have already a function over here. Let's edit the function and take a look at the code. It's pretty simple. It might look a bit complex, but it's actually very simple. The first thing that we did is a check. Is the content that being inserted is an update or an insertion? Because if it's an update, we want to make sure the content being updated is the large content column and not the other columns. Next, we do two requests. As you can see, we're using this special keyword called HTTP. This is an extension that is built for Postgres. If you head over to your extensions tab, you can search HTTP and turn it on and make HTTP requests to any API. For this situation, we're making it to Jigsaw Stack's API. So we want to go over the documentation for summarization code. Let's click View Documentation over here. And the two fields that we need to input is the text and the type. With these fields provided, we can make a request, get the output, and pass that back into the database. We're making a request to the Summarization API. We're passing two key fields. We're passing the text. So we're telling it, hey, give me the type of text. Then we make a post request with the API key. The unfortunate thing, which I've not managed to solve, is the API key is exposed in the function, which is also secured in your Supabase instance. If there's a way to put this into an environment file and access it from a Postgres function, that's something that I haven't figured out yet. If somebody knows how to solve this problem of putting it in the vault or like an environment key that can be mapped here, would be even better. We call the Summarization API, and that's it. We extract the value from that request and store it in an object. We make the request once more, but this time we want it in the points format. Hence, we just change the type to points, but everything in the request stays the same. And then we store that in another object. Right after we get those two values, we basically update the column that triggered this function in the relevant columns. And that's it. Pretty simple function. I think it looks a bit complicated because it takes up a lot of space, the API key. Ignoring that, it's actually a pretty simple HTTP request being made to Jigsaw Stack within your triggers. And it works really quickly, so quickly that as the point you insert, you see a summarization that comes in. So we confirm the function. We want to trigger it every time a change is being made. I already have a trigger here, but let me delete this and recreate it. Let me show you how I do it. I gotta copy the name. Give me a second. Cool. Deleted the summarization text. Let's create a new trigger. Let's call it summarize large tag. We want to trigger it on the articles table every time it's inserted and updated. So if the content does change, we also make sure to update the summarization. We want to do it after the operations have been done so that we can execute and run any other checks that the table might have. We want to do it per row. Why per row? especially if you make an insert statement that inserts 10 articles at the same time. You want this function to trigger 10 times so that each row gets summarized and not just the first row. So now we pick the function summarize large text right over here, and we confirm it. Simple as that. Now we have this saved. So every time a row is inserted or updated, it will create summarization. So let's insert a new row. Let's try the history of Singapore. Let's get the history of Singapore. Let's copy this over here. Let's find where we want. Okay, let's take till this point. Let's copy this large text, head back, paste it. That's it. We can leave the other two blank and save. Cool. As soon as it's inserted, you see the TLDR summarization of the entire large text that we added in. And we see the point-based summarization in an array of points that can be mapped however we would like to. And that's basically it. We keep it simple. We can extend this to do a lot more than summarizing articles. It could be summarizing large text in chat messages. You can be summarizing PDF documents as well, especially if you have a large PDF document get inserted into Superbase storage. You can map the URL over here and use that URL to summarize the PDF in any format that you want. This is a good example of how we have AI natively in your database, and we're going to be doing more videos on this and like how we can bring AI into the database. Because we use Postgres internally, and one of the biggest issues that we have is always having to write a separate function and managing that function on our server that keeps track with our database, and our database basically does the checks and manages everything for us at the point of inserting it into the database. That would be a lot more awesome, and we want to see how we can do that with AI. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.